In the far reaches of the galaxy, an evil alien overlord is enacting a scheme of planetary destruction. In order to stop him, two unlikely heroes must band together. Ratchet, a well-intentioned if clumsy mechanic, and Clank, a defective warbot. Together, they may be the only ones who stand a chance against armies of rampaging robots, hordes of dangerous mutants, and unquenchable corporate greed. Ratchet & Clank is a third-person action-adventure game where you play as the hero Ratchet, a furry, floppy-eared alien living in a distant galaxy. At the start of the game, Ratchet is going about his day-to-day life on his home planet until he meets Clank, a scrapped robot who informs him that a ruthless corporate land developer is traveling around the galaxy, blowing up planets to suit his own sinister agenda. Ratchet and Clank then decide to team up and seek out other galactic heroes to put a stop to these misdeeds, not yet realizing that they may become the very heroes they seek to find. Now, the gameplay in Ratchet & Clank draws from a fairly wide variety of sources. It is primarily based around classic 3D platforming. Ratchet will be traveling around to various planets and space stations in order to gather resources and clues. As you explore, you'll collect cash, solve puzzles, flip switches, and most commonly, defeat enemies. And this is where the gameplay really starts to expand, because in addition to your trusty wrench, which can be used for melee attacks, Ratchet can also equip multiple weapons that allow him to shoot and bomb and blast his way through enemies. And it's not just weapons. As the game progresses, Ratchet will also unlock a variety of helpful gadgets, things from helicopter upgrades to jet boots, even a metal detector which will help you find extra money scattered around the levels. So while the core of the game is pretty solidly action platforming, new elements and mechanics are getting added to the edges all the time. Now, if there's one thing that stands out about Ratchet & Clank, it's that the game has fantastic variety. And it's the kind of variety that applies at more than one level. The most obvious example of this is the visual design. The game is filled with bright, colorful planets, each of which has its own unique aesthetic. There's a great variety of enemies and obstacles to overcome, and each planet has a distinct theme with specific dangers that you'll have to face. However, a better and more tangible example would be the game's weapon selection. There are a total of 15 different weapons that you can acquire over the course of the game. And while some of these are fairly familiar pistols or rockets or grenades, every single one of them has their own unique properties. No two of them are exactly alike, and they all offer different tactical advantages. By the end of the game and the point when you've unlocked most of your arsenal, it almost feels like you're playing a third-person shooter. You just have so many weapons available to you. But probably the ultimate example of the game's creativity is the huge assortment of side missions, special quests, and unique objectives that you have to engage with over the course of the game. In addition to the standard action-adventure material, you will regularly find yourself called to complete a wide range of side missions. These minigames typically have new objectives and gameplay, such as piloting a starfighter and trying to take on a squadron of enemy robots, or racing in an underwater obstacle course, or even piloting your own giant robot in an oversized death arena. Whatever the case, there's always something new and exciting just around the corner. Now, Unfortunately, there is perhaps a reason why I draw so much attention to the diversity of Ratchet & Clank's gameplay. And that reason is, while the adventure aspects of the game, the exploration, the puzzle solving, the platforming, the collection, while those are all fine, the action elements, the combat, and the encounters, those can leave something to be desired. Earlier I mentioned how at some points the game almost feels like you're playing a third-person shooter, and I use the word almost because the shooting and the weapon usage doesn't feel as reliable as it should be. Most of this can be directly related to the game's targeting system. Ratchet, because he handles like a third-person platforming character, will only target enemies that are directly in front of him, in the direction that he is facing, not necessarily the direction that the camera is facing. And in a 3D game where enemies can attack you from multiple different directions, or be flying, or be shooting you from off screen, this is not exactly the best case scenario. Now, the game does allow you to enter first-person mode for fine aiming, which does allow you to see what you're shooting at. However, if you do this, you cannot move at the same time, which means that the game forces you to choose between actually hitting what you're aiming at or dodging incoming projectiles. And in an action game like this, that's not really a fair trade. Also, your weapon usage in general can be somewhat inconsistent. Some weapons, typically the more powerful ones, have harshly limited ammo supplies, and in a game where ammo pickups are actually quite rare, it means that you won't get to use them as often as you may like. Other weapons just don't work reliably, requiring enemies to be at certain distances, locations, or orientations, even when it doesn't seem like that should be necessary. Here's the thing though, in the end, even if Ratchet & Clank doesn't have the smoothest third-person shooting, the game overall as a whole package is still quite good. The game still has great pacing. No matter how frustrated I would get in any one action sequence, I was always still looking forward to what was coming next. I always wanted to see the next planet, to play the next minigame, to unlock the next new weapon. Even if there were moments of tedium, the game overall tops out well above average. I would give Ratchet & Clank 3 out of 4 stars, and my positive recommendation. This is definitely one to check out if you like action adventure games, or even third-person platforming mixed with a little shooter mechanics. Alright, well, thanks for listening, and keep looking to the stars, my friends. Where one hero may fall, 2 may rise. Till next time.
Now that's what I call serious firepower. Clank's gonna be jealous if he sees this.
Does anybody know what I should do? I don't seem to know how to get down from here. I don't want to be alarmist, but I am trapped 1 inch off the ground and possibly running out of fuel. Also, Ratchet appears to be trapped in a state of perpetual terror, and I'm afraid the little guy's going to have an aneurysm, so if anybody can figure out how to land this thing, I would be very much appreciated.